Hello guys, welcome back to this video on World Trigger. It has been a long time since I've done a World Trigger review. The last chapter I did was chapter 190, so it's literally a year ago practically, or thereabouts, or close to that. So I want to spend some time briefly going over chapter 191 to 199 and then going over the two chapters released today. So without further ado, let's get into the summary and then the review. So, the summary of chapters 191 to 199. Realistically, there's a lot of different things that happen. So, a good chunk of these chapters is on the main Tomakoma B battle, which include Ninamoya squad, Yuba squad, and Ikoma squad. When we left off, Ikoma squad were basically done, and it became a three-way battle. So I've made some notes because I don't want to be rambling on for too long for this section of the video. I will leave a timestamp in the description below, just so that anyone that don't want to watch this bit doesn't have to. That being said, let's get into it. So the first few chapters really is about kind of everyone gathering up, kind of a strategic retreat in a way. So we see Yuba's basically trying to take down Inukai from Ninamoya squad, and we see that essentially he gets helped by Suji. There's a lot of hyping up of Yuba's ability and how the way he shoots and the style that he uses from Suwa is basically arranged at 22 meters, and the counter to that is essentially Ikoma's technique, which extends beyond that range. Because they basically said attackers have a range, especially Kogetsu, of 20 meters. So because he's out that range, he essentially is safe and can counter attack. That being said, we also see that Yuma finds a creative way to deal with Ubishima by using a scorpion like a boomerang, using pinball to trap her and then stab her from the back. He does say to her that you will get stronger, so even though he's taken her down in an embarrassing way, he still has the decency, I guess, to basically support her and kind of not put her down too much, give her some kind words. Then we basically see more hype from Ninamoya, and we see him uses, I believe it's Hornet, to essentially take down Yuba by using different timings and different ranges. He has a shorter range and a longer range to catch Yuba out and essentially take Yuba out of the match, which then makes it a 2-on-2. As in, well, not 2-on-2 necessarily, it's more of a team versus team, and this is where it really gets interesting. There's a lot of pressure being applied at this point because they're not quite sure what's going on with Chika, Amatori Chika, and for the most part, up until this point, she's basically not been doing much. She does try Meteor, she gets caught off guard, she then tries using an attack, it's lead bullet, so they're led to believe that basically she can't attack with normal bullets. At which point then Ninamoya tells his, I guess, Suji and Inukai to attack Chika, which is a ploy because Suji essentially wants to get behind Osamu, and Osamu is none aware of it, but realistically that counter gets countered by Chika using an actual bullet and taking Suji out of the equation. This then frees up space for the boys to attack Ninamoya. Now, I'll get to the summary at the end with this battle, but I found that quite interesting that essentially all these different things were set up so that the other teams thought still till now that she couldn't attack with normal bullets. This proves she can, and she made that judgment on her own and didn't need a command. So that was really interesting. Then essentially Inukai catches up to her and there's a bailout, and she's really out of the equation. What I found interesting was then the battle, the 2-on-1, where Osamu and Yuma take on Ninamoya. It looks like a meteor. Ninamoya dodges. He gets distracted by Yuma, but it's not a meteor. It's a hound, and they basically shoot through Ninamoya. What this effectively is essentially he's been using hound the whole time, but without tracking, so it made it look like meteor. And because he's of low Treon, they can't really tell the difference. And then Yuma finishes him off. It's kind of poetic justice that it was the original three that did that, and it was also interesting that the kill although it was set up by Osamu, was Yuma's, because I can think back when they had the original fight and Yuma was like so close to get him using the mantis technique, but just got blasted away. So it was poetic justice for that. Which then leaves Tomakoma B in second position. Ultimately, after that, we get a section of chapters that's basically to do with the other fight. To cut long story short, Nasu team comes out the best. They end up ranked 7th. A few members leave from a few different teams. And then basically Amotori's friend Izuho joins the Nasu team, which I thought was interesting because she hasn't been shown to be quite strong, but she's basically been shown enough for her to be a relevant character, and for her to be in a team that's basically mid to upper rankings in the B teams shows that there is potential for her, and we'll probably see more of her in the future. So that's basically a quick summary without going into so much more detail, which I probably could. That's pretty much chapter 191 to 199. So let's get on to chapter 200 and 201. So, chapter 200 and 201 has just dropped. It's about 5 p.m. UK time, so it's been an hour while I'm doing this recording. And I've, reread earlier chapters, and I've really let it sink in a little bit. And when you think about it, these chapters go hand in hand. So I'm not really going to do a separate 200 and then 201 chapter. I'm just going to deal with it all in one go. But what I will do is kind of cover pieces as they go along. So we got to our last chapter that Jin told Osamu and Yuma that they're going to meet somebody. So naturally that's what we're expecting this chapter. But we get introduced to a character called Ruka. Ruka's surname is Shinoda, and we are told that she is the sibling of YOTARU Rindo. And Shinoda and Rindo aren't related, and then in the early 30s, I think one's 31, one's 33, I believe. And then we get told that basically they're siblings, and they were children of friends of theirs. And Kurosawa, the PR guy and the guy who looks for sponsors, essentially boxed it off. The guy's got the pull, and he sorted it out. But when you think about Hughes and Cronin, you can easily see that that's very feasible because he's just literally done it recently. So it's a very nice usage of a plot point for an early event. So he's obviously probably got better at it, but it just reinforces an easy plot point or plot convenience at that stage. Then we get a few more details in there, conversations. We'll not get into all of that. And then we see Yuma and Osamu talking, and they're like, oh, this must be who we were meant to meet. And just like, no, this isn't them. Let's go out. We need to go sort something out. And then we see right at the end, like a cliffhanger, where Galupaulo or Galalopo, which depending on how bad the translation is, are having a meeting, and two of the members, Rata and Reggie, are basically gonna get into Earth, Medan, and do some spying. Move on to chapter 201, and that spying doesn't go very well. They try to enter using civilian clothes, and they get caught very quickly by none other than YOTARU. There's that Jin, there they are, and it's basically Jin, YOTARU, Rindo, Yuma, and Osamu. And Rindo is just a smooth operator. He just gets in there, diffuses the situation, tells them not to use the trigger, which makes sense because if they do use the trigger and there's a threat it themselves, it's going to cause a lot of issues. And then they start talking, and I like the way Rindo goes about this because he's like, look, don't do anything. We'll delay it from our side. You tell them that it's delayed on your side. You won't see him like a bad person, or you've not betrayed them, we'll be okay. And then ultimately that's fishy because it is fishy, and the real reason is they were going to be delayed by 50 days anyway, up to 2 months. And it shows you that even in the real world, when you look at situations, depending on how you word it, you can really negotiate situations and make them better or worse depending on how you word it. So I like that. And then we find out a little bit more. So we start talking, and they mention something called a mother trigger. So we've got normal triggers, we've got black triggers, now we've got mother triggers, which is basically the world trigger, because a mother trigger essentially creates worlds in the neighborhood for neighbors. And we find out a very interesting thing. Now what I want to do is read this from the actual translation, because I want to get these names right, because what Rindo specifically states I found really interesting because I was always curious about this particular aspect, so I really like this. So when Yuma and Osamu were staying over and they were talking about the old Tamakoma being the original kind of the way the world worked for the border organization, we saw this emblem, and they point to it, this emblem now, and you see border being the gate, and you see 3 worlds. Now we get named for those 3 worlds. I'm gonna read this out. One's Dexia, one Meson, and one's Arrestra. And Arrestra is the one that resonates with Rata, and it's because Arrestra was destroyed 5 years ago, coincidentally in line with the formation of the proper border, and they had a mother trigger that was supposedly lost in war, and the royal lineage was destroyed, and apparently, conveniently, a princess and a prince, a young prince newly born, with a person that just looks like Michael Cronin, were basically shown in this panel, and then essentially it's covered that basically the young prince of Arrestora is none other than YOTARU Rindo, or YOTARU Arrestora, and his older sister is a princess, and that they're living on Earth under their protection. And I've always liked Tamakoma before that, because if you look at their lineup now, Yuma's a neighbour, Hughes is a neighbour, Michael Cronin's a neighbour, Yotaru's a neighbour, and Ruka is a neighbour as well. And the fact that they're under Shinoda and Rindo essentially means Shinoda is really still no different than Tamakoma, which is why they also help protect Yuma in that whole kerfuffle when they tried retrieving his black trigger. So that being the case, was a really good revelation. It wasn't the revelation we wanted, but it's the revelation we needed because it ties up that plot point. And we also get a timeline now, where basically now we know there's going to be a period of time where there's going to be training, development, other kind of slice of life type of chapters where we'll get to see other things going on. I'm hoping there's not that many of them, but I'm hoping there's opportunity to see these characters grow. So all things to look forward to. So this video has been quite long, plus all the earlier bits of this video, which means it's going to stretch for quite a bit. I do want to mention the one thing I found funny was when Reggie says, "Why don't you just ask your prisoner of war?" Because they don't know about the other character with a black trigger that got put into one of those cockroach-looking Trian soldiers, and they were like, "Well, he's a bit bullheaded, and the other person that we could use is kind of not really the most trusted of subjects." I just found that funny. So I forget his name, but he's the one that broke into the border association, and Shinoda tore him up with the help of everybody else. So I found that really funky and funny at the same time. But with that being said, a good little chapter. We have to wait another month now, but if we're getting double chapters, I don't mind. I don't mind if we get a chapter, and hopefully the health of the author continues. But like always, I must bid you adieu, and I will see you next time. Peace.